To avoid shallow relationships, avoid these mistakes. For many people, love is nothing more than a game, a form of entertainment where the other person's feelings have no value. This applies to superficial conditions. In all this, the manipulation that will lead to the downfall of the relationship is present. It is impossible that this situation will be maintained over time. However, it is also true that people who play with love burn themselves sooner or later. Liquid conditions are always in water. Jennifer Delgado. Perhaps it is the fear of formal relationships that encourages us to fill them with instability. Even if we try, we can't manage to form a solid bond. This behavior provokes the end of many relationships before they even begin. That is why it is so important to avoid these mistakes and avoid superficial relationships. You refuse to define your relationship. It's true that labels tend to encapsulate and limit, but when two people want to be together and share certain moments in their lives, they have to give a name to what happens between them. If you refuse to give your relationship a name, you will both feel lost. Are we a couple? Are we friends with benefits? It is not fair to let actions speak for themselves. The other person needs to know whether they can freely see other people or, on the contrary, whether they are entering into a serious and formal relationship. One of the two people might not be okay with this, so letting the situation hang in the air is not the right thing to do. This trend indicates a clear fear of commitment and labels. But if there is no conversation about the relationship, false illusions and ideas can arise that can cause much more serious problems. In superficial relationships, you only look for the person when you want to. People have feelings and we can treat them as if they were objects. They don't just exist to satisfy our needs when we want them to. When we do this, we use another person. All disgrace comes from not speaking clearly. Albert Camus. No one likes to be used by others. Have you ever experienced it? Have you ever ignored someone until you needed them? This kind of superficial relationship ends up being hurtful, undermines self-esteem and provokes feelings of inferiority. To regard a person as a mere instrument is to strip the person of his humanity. There are many people who give up because of low self-esteem or emotional dependency. But you have to love yourself more than that. You don't deserve to be used. You deserve to be loved. Remember that you are not an object, but a person. Don't let yourself be used. You say the opposite of what you mean. When friendships with benefits became popular, many people wanted to take part in the new craze. But is this really the kind of relationship they wanted to have? Perhaps many people found themselves locked in this kind of relationship not because they wanted to. Instead, it was a way of confronting the classical thought that characterized love as an eternal feeling, or at least until reality said otherwise. In a relationship, without boundaries, it becomes a game. At first, this game will keep the flame alive, but over time it can end up destroying the relationship. A seemingly innocent game where we send a message, but then it takes a long time to react. This is done on purpose to maintain the mystery and make the other person more interested in us. The same idea of a relationship is still filled with vague threats and gloomy forebodings. It conveys at once the pleasure of a union and the brooding of confinement. Maybe that's why people talk more about relationships than couples. Zygmunt Bauman. The truth is that relationships today have become fragile. This is because our understanding of love has changed, or because we have somehow destroyed the previous concept and have not been able to create a new one in its place. We have criticized the lack of communication that couples suffer from, but now the lack of stickers is being defended. And this absence only makes us feel confused and lost beyond measure. we can be aware of what we don't want, but not so much about what we do want, and much less about what we are willing to negotiate to reach an agreement. In the end, we have exchanged the classical definitions of cavities. Cavities that are not harmless because they are the source of great confusion and emotional damage. And it is something that we as a society and as individuals have to think about.